Section 1.2, Part 7. Finally at the end of this section. So, going over the questions from sex determination and sex-linked genes. Man and woman have a child, so woman XX, man XY. Go through, fill it out. 50% of them are XY, therefore having a boy. 50% of them are XX, having a girl. The parent that determines the sex of the child is the father. Okay. The Y chromosome has to come from the father, therefore that is what is going to determine the female is giving X no matter what. Okay. Normal man, a woman that colors colorblind this allele, have a child. So probability that the child is colorblind is 25%. So it's this one right here, the one that has the recessive allele and no normal allele or dominant allele to kind of override it, and that would be a male because of the Y. Okay. Normal man and a colorblind woman have a child. Okay, so normal meaning dominant allele, so capital N. Colorblind woman, so she is not just a carrier, she actually is colorblind, therefore has 2 of the recessive alleles. Probability that the child is colorblind, so these 2 right here are colorblind, these 2 are not, so 50%, and both ones that are colorblind are male. Normal man, so weird to say normal man. So there we go, a woman that is a carrier for hemophilia. Okay, so this means that she does not have hemophilia, she doesn't exhibit it, but she does have that one recessive allele hiding there. What's the probability the child has hemophilia? It would be this one. It's the only one with just the recessive allele and no dominant allele to override it, and that would be a male. Okay, Henry VIII executed many of his wives because they only bore daughters from him. Aside from the very obvious ethical issues, was he right in doing so? So no, it's the sperm from the father that is going to determine if the baby is male or female. If the sperm is carrying an X, the baby is considered to be female. If the sperm is carrying a Y, the baby is considered to be male. Is it possible for 2 colorblind parents to have a child that is not colorblind? So 2 colorblind parents means that the mom has 2 copies of the recessive allele and the dad has the 1 copy of the recessive allele, and so we don't have any of the dominant alleles present, so all of the babies are going to be colorblind as well. In order for a daughter to be colorblind, you definitely need a father who is colorblind because the daughter is getting the X from the father, and then the mother either needs to be colorblind where both of her X's have the recessive allele, or she needs to be a carrier where only one of them has recessive allele. Okay, what are the requirements for 2 parents of a daughter that's hemophilia? Exactly the same thing as colorblind. Father has to have hemophilia and the mother either has it or is a carrier. And we consider things like colorblindness and hemophilia to be sex-linked because the gene is carried on the X chromosome. Therefore, it goes along with sex determination. Okay. Multiple alleles. So everything that we've looked at so far kind of just has like 2 options. It's either black or it's white. You can or you can't do something. In multiple alleles, we are looking at something where there's more than 2 possible alleles. Okay, so in this case, 3 for blood type. But yeah, more than 2 possible alleles, so it's not just one or the other. Okay. So blood types, for example, commonly known as being type A, type B, type AB, or type O. Okay, so if you were in a serious accident and require a blood transfusion, how are doctors and nurses going to decide what type of blood to give you? There's 4 possible options here. So they're gonna test your blood. Okay, so they're going to take a little prick of blood and they're going to do a really quick test on it, and it's going to tell them what they need if they don't already have it kind of like in your file as to what you require. Okay, will any type of blood do? Nope. Okay, so You need to have a type of blood that is compatible with the blood that you have. And you need to receive your exact blood type, also no, with the exception of one very specific type of blood that requires its own exact type of blood. Okay, but for the most part, no, you do not need your own exact blood type. Okay, so Science 8, you guys looked at the immune system. So antigens are substances that antibodies in your immune system will attack. So normally we think of antigens, we think of things like viruses, we think of things like histamines, like things that cause an allergic reaction. And blood type is actually based on antigens. Okay, so with two different alleles, so the gene has multiple alleles, sort of more than two. Okay, so if we look at our blood types, we have a blood type A, okay, and that has an A antigen on it. We have a blood type B, and that has a B antigen on it. We have a blood type AB, and that actually has both. Okay, so like you can see right there, there's like the blue round one and the green spiky one. And then there's blood type O, and blood type O doesn't have any antigens on it. Okay, so there's, say, three sort of things that you can have here. So instead of having just the dominant and the recessive, we have basically two different dominants and then the recessive. Okay, so the alleles that we use for blood type are IA, IB, and then lowercase i. Okay, the official fancy scientific name for antigen is isoagglutinogen. There's a reason we just say antigen. So that's where the I comes from in there. You can't just use A for antigen because then that would get confusing because A is one of the blood types. Okay. So IA and IB are both considered to be dominant alleles, and then the lowercase I is recessive. So kind of our usual terminology that we've seen kind of all along, lowercase letters for recessive, uppercase letters for dominant. The difference here is that we've got two possibilities for dominant and then also a recessive, as opposed to having two different dominants that are codominant or incomplete dominant. Okay. So each allele is responsible for the production of a matching marker or antigen on the red blood cells and the production of antibodies that will attack foreign or not of the body antigens. Okay, the alleles do not produce antibodies to attack its own antigens, fortunately. Okay, so we have antigens on the red blood cells on the outside of them that basically makes it so that your body recognizes its own blood type. And then we have antibodies that will attack antigens that are from elsewhere. Okay, so if you are type A blood, so whether that is a double dominant IA, or if it's a heterozygous, okay, so IA, lowercase I, you can be given type A blood. Okay, the lowercase I, the recessive one, does not produce antigens and it does not produce antibodies. Okay, so anyone can be given type O blood, which is little I, it's the recessive, because it's not producing antigens and it's not producing antibodies. It's not going to attack anything else. It's not going to cause anything to attack it. Okay, so what this actually looks like, our A-type blood has our A antigens on it. Okay, our B-type blood has our B antigens on it. Our AB blood has A and B antigens on it, and then our O-type blood has no antigens on it. in your plasma, so that's the liquid part of your blood, it's kind of clear yellowish stuff. In the plasma of A-type blood, there is anti-B antibodies, so antibodies that are going to attack B antigens. In B-type blood, you're going to have anti-A antibodies. In AB blood, you're not going to have any antibodies because you don't want to attack A or B because you have both A and B. And then in O-type blood, you don't have any of your own antigens, so you have antibodies for both A and B. Okay, so what this is showing is basically like each one of these antibodies, so like one of these would kind of fit over top of one of those and it would block it out. So the same as an immune response for, once again, for example, coronavirus, looking at the spike proteins and having the mRNA create the spike proteins so that your body creates antibodies for the spike proteins and then can block the actual coronavirus if it enters your body. Same thing here, okay, so these are designed to sort of fit around it. I'll go with a different color, okay? So that one is round so that it can fit around that. Okay. So we've got 4 blood types, A, B, AB, and O. We have the alleles for it. You'll notice that there is room for 2 types of alleles for A and 2 types or sets of alleles for B, and there's only one for AB and one for O. And then antigens from your red blood cells, and then antibodies that would be present in the plasma of an individual with that blood type. So take a moment, try and fill this out. Highly recommend pausing this right now just to see if you can sort of figure it out based off of the chart we just looked at and the information that you have. And then in just a moment, I'll give you all the answers. Okay, enough awkward silence. Okay, so to have A-type blood, you can either be homozygous or heterozygous. For B-type blood, you can either be homozygous or heterozygous with the recessive for each of those. AB, you can only have AB blood if you have both of the 2 dominant ones in a codominant kind of way where they're both present. And then O, you can only be O-type blood if you've got 2 of the recessive allele. Blood type A has A antigens, blood type B has B antigens, blood type AB has A and B antigens, and blood type O has no antigens. And then antibodies, blood type A produces B antibodies that will attack the B antigen. Blood type B will attack the A antigen. AB won't attack either of them. And then O will attack both A and B. Okay, so what would be the possible blood types of children born to a mother with type AB blood and a father with type O blood? Okay, so our cross for this is IAIB by little I. Okay, and then we would set up our Punnett square. Okay, and we would see our AB blood and our O blood, and we'd go through and do this. Okay, and then the children would either have type A or B blood. Okay, so these 2 would both have A blood, these 2 would both have B blood. Okay, so 50% chance of each one of those blood types. You would have no children with O-type blood, and you would have no children with AB blood. Okay, so something for you to try, not in your notes. Okay, so what would be the blood types for the children of a mother, AB, and a father who is type B carrier? Okay, so type AB, okay, so that would be type AB, and a father who is a type B carrier. So that means he's got a B, but it means he also is a carrier, which means he's got the recessive. Okay, so plain old regular Punnett square for that one. nothing super tricky or weird. Kind of work your way through the Punnett squares, see what you end up with. Once again, you may want to pause this because I'm going to move on and go to the next one. So if you're not ready, pause it and then come back when you are ready. Okay. Second question, a daughter is type O and the brother is type AB. What are the blood types of the parents? So this one is working in reverse. So instead of starting with the parents and figuring out the kids, we're starting with the kids and working our way back. So you draw out your Punnett square. And instead of knowing what the parents are, you're going to start with the kids. So she's going to be II, and he's going to be IB. Okay, so if she's II, she is one of these 4 possible outcomes. If he's AB, he's one of the 4 possible outcomes. Okay, I've put them in offset squares like this because there's no commonality in their alleles. So because there's no overlap, they're not getting the same alleles from either parent. Okay, so once again, take a moment, work through this, pause me if you need to. I'm going to move on. Okay, so blood types for the first one, so 25% of them would be AB, 25% of them would be A, and then these 2 are both type B, even though they don't look the same. So this would be a homozygous B on the top, and this would be a heterozygous B on the bottom, but they're both type B. Okay, and then the daughter being type O, and then brother being type AB. So we've got the daughter down here. Each of her lowercase I, each of her recessive alleles had to have come from one parent. So like this one can come from here, and this one can come from here. Okay. And then the brother needed to have gotten an IA from somewhere and an IB from somewhere. So that one can come from there, and that one can come from there. Totally doesn't matter what order you write them in. So the parents are IAI, which is blood type A, and then IBI, which is blood type B. Okay, in addition to having your AB and O blood types, and AB, there's also an Rh factor. So the Rh factor is a protein that produces an Rh antigen on the surface of blood cells, kind of like the A and B antigens. It's not really any different. It's just a separate one, and it is controlled by a separate gene, so it is independent of the blood type. Okay, displays simple dominance. It's either on or off. There's no other option. Okay, most people do have the Rh factor. They're considered to be Rh positive. There are some people who do not have the Rh factor, and they're considered to be Rh negative. Okay, because we have an Rh blood type on top of an ABO blood type, we basically double the number of blood types. Where most of the time in life this is not a huge issue, although it does determine what type of blood you can get. Where you end up with an issue though is that if you are an Rh negative female and you have a child with an Rh positive male, and then your child is Rh positive because it got that allele from dad, the mother's immune system can often think that the unborn child is a foreign invader, and it can basically engage an immune response against the fetus. So if you are Rh negative and you become pregnant, your doctor will generally give you an Rh shot, which is effectively the same thing as a vaccine, during your pregnancy to make it so that your body doesn't try and destroy the fetus by seeing it as a foreign body within you. It is really only an issue in second and third and subsequent pregnancies. So if you look at this picture here, so in the first pregnancy, okay, you've got your Rh negative mother, okay, and then you've got your first Rh positive fetus, and then it's going to make antigens, and things are kind of okay. It takes a while to elicit an immune response. But then in between pregnancies, you end up with all these antibodies that are part of your immune system. Your body remembers how to deal with it. And so in subsequent pregnancies, when you have your Rh positive fetus, from your blood through the placenta, you end up with the antibodies going in and attacking the cells of the fetus. Before they knew about this, before they could start giving the shots, it was actually one of the reasons for a lot of people in kind of like, I don't know, grandparent / great grandparent kind of generations only having one child, and it's because it would result in a miscarriage for all subsequent pregnancies, usually really early on, before they would even know they were pregnant, because of this Rh response. Okay, so we do have twice the number of blood types that we kind of recognized before. So you can have AB positive or AB negative. You can have A positive or A negative. You can have B positive or B negative. You can have O positive and O negative. So an AB positive actually has 3 types of antigens on it, and then an O negative has truly 0, and then it kind of goes from there. Okay. In general, this is kind of what the distribution of blood types looks like. It does vary with ethnicity just because of sort of breeding within populations can kind of cause things to shift. Overall, O positive is the most common blood type. So 1 in 3 people roughly in the world has O positive blood type. The least common is AB negative, so 1 person in 167 globally has it, or around 0.7%. So O positive is most common, A positive is next most common, then it's B positive, then it's O negative, then it's A negative, then it's AB positive, then it's B negative, then it's AB negative. So huge amount of variation. O positive is the most common though, and that's my blood type. Okay, this is the end of the notes. I am going to continue on and go over the answers to the multiple alleles practice. So it'd be in your best interest to stop this video right now and come back to it in a bit, but I don't really have a logical place to stick this in otherwise. So here we go. Oh, missed that part. So this is just looking at if your blood type is what you can receive. Okay, so an O negative blood type can only receive O negative blood, whereas an AB positive individual can receive literally any type of blood because they already have all the antigens and don't make any of the antibodies. Okay, practice. Okay, AB and O have a child, so AB, O have a child. 50% of them are A, 50% of them are B. We saw this already, right? So genotype as opposed to phenotype would be the 50% big I, A, no, yeah, big I, A, little I, and 50% of the big I, B, little I. A man with A blood type, which is being specified as genotype as being the homozygous, so both the same, and one with type O. So all of the babies are going to be type A blood, but it's going to be with that recessive carrier. Type B blood and a woman with type O blood have a child, so in this one it is the heterozygous B as opposed to the homozygous B. 50% of the children are going to have type B blood, 50% are going to have type O blood. And then AB and AB have a child. We end up with this corner being A-type blood, these two both being AB, and then this one being B. Okay. Is it possible for a man with A-type blood and a woman with B-type blood to have a child? Yes. Or with O-type blood, not a child in general. Yes, so as long as they are both a carrier for the recessive, then you can have the recessive passed on. A man with AB blood and a woman with unknown blood type have a child. Is it possible for that child to have type O blood? No. The man does not have an recessive allele to pass on, therefore there's no way for that child to have two recessive alleles. Okay, and then O is considered to be a universal donor because it doesn't have any antigens. Other blood types won't see it as foreign or as a threat, and therefore just about everyone can receive O-type blood. If you want to be really, really specific, O negative is a true universal donor because anyone who is Rh positive or Rh negative can take O negative blood. You have to be Rh positive to take O positive blood, but that's still the majority of the population. So not a huge problem. Okay. Why is AB blood considered to be the universal acceptor? It has both types of antigens and no antibodies, so you can shove any other type of blood into it and it's not going to cause a problem. And then the last one, not really a question, but do you know your blood type? And if so, what is it? Say, I'm O positive. If you're type O, consider giving blood. And even if you're not type O, also please consider giving blood. So like B negative is super rare, AB negative is super rare. So anytime you can have an exact match, it is better. Minimum age to donate is 17. So for most of you, that'll be in grade 11 or grade 12. And I highly recommend it. You get free juice and cookies. You can't go wrong. And that's it for this topic. We're done.